Welcome to the Invite Health podcast, where our degreed healthcare professionals are excited to offer you the most important health and wellness information you need to make informed choices about your health. You can learn more about the products discussed in each of these episodes and all that Invite Health has to offer at www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First-time customers can use promo code podcast at checkout for an additional 15% off your first purchase. Let's get started.
Elderberry flowers and fruit are used in remedies to reduce cold and flu symptoms. They're used in home remedies. They've been used for centuries. And studies demonstrate, hey, they work. They're effective. Now, elderberry belongs to a family of flowering shrubs. They're known as sambucus or elder. They're native to Europe. That's where they've grown historically, but now they've been naturalized in the United States and also in parts of Asia. You probably have heard of elderberry wine. The fruit's also used to make jams and syrups and other foods, but you cannot eat raw elderberries. They're inedible. They have to be cooked before you can eat them. The berries are rich in nutrients, but several of these components in elderberries, they stand out because they may also block infection. So hi, my name is Jerry Hickey. I'm a nutritional pharmacist. I'm also the Chief Scientific Officer over here at Invite Health. Welcome to our episode, Black Elderberry for the Common Cold. Elderberry flowers and fruit are incorporated into remedies to help with cold and flu symptoms, but also for inflammation and also for respiratory tract diseases like sinusitis, sore throats. The berries are a rich source of anthocyanins and other polyphenols. These are powerful nutrients, and many anthocyanins have some antiviral activity, but it seems that the elderberry stands out. So there's several species of these sambucus plants that produce these elderberries, and they're all pretty similar in the chemical composition of the berries. So there's the American elder, which is called Sambucus canadensis, the blue elder, which is Sambucus caerulea, but the European elder, the Sambucus nigra, which also grows in the United States at this point, aka black elderberry, is the type most studied, and that's the one used in supplements. An in vitro study is a study done in like a plate, we call it a petri dish, or done in a test tube. It's not done in something living. But the in vitro studies demonstrate that elderberries have antiviral activity, antibacterial activity, antioxidant activity, and anti-inflammatory properties. It seems to reduce the symptoms of influenza and colds. So influenza, of course, is the flu. So let's talk about that. I mean, is there any value to testing a substrate on bacteria in a plate? Yes. That's what happens when you go to a hospital with a severe infection. And they say, well, we're going to culture this bacteria. That means they're going to grow the bacteria in a plate of gel. They call it agar gel. And then they're going to test different antibiotics to see if it makes bullet holes in the bacteria. So yes, these studies mean something. There's a world-renowned virologist. That's a person who studies viral infections. She's Israeli, Dr. Madeleine Mamkougliou. She spent the lifetime of her career working on a cure for one of our biggest threats, that's the avian flu, the bird flu. Now, she's been working frontline. She's been working frontline on this research into a potential future pandemic with focused research into the health benefits of elderberry. That's an old folk remedy for influenza. So it's now a clinically proven treatment for the flu. It really is. So let's go to some of these studies. In China, they now grow elderberry. And they published a study in the journal Virus Research recently. It's for the National Sun Yat-sen University in Taiwan and the School of Chinese Medicine in Taiwan, and a bunch of other academic research institutions in Taiwan, certain colleges of pharmacy, etc. They wanted to test the elderberry on strains of human coronavirus, and it worked. They said that it had strong anti-coronavirus activity, but that's not going to get anywhere. This is from Emory University. That's down in Georgia, Division of Natural Science. It's in BMC Veterinary Research. And they're looking at coronaviruses that infect poultry, because poultry is a big market. I mean, chicken, turkey. So they found out that the black elderberry inhibits the types of coronavirus that infect chickens. And it's a strong relationship. It was a dose-response manner. Now that's like a linear relationship. In other words, the more of the black elderberry that they fed the chickens, the more they were able to withstand the poultry type of coronaviruses. So there is some effect on a broad range of viruses. Coronaviruses are one of the families of viruses besides rhinovirus and several others that cause the common cold. That's why people don't dependably develop antibodies against the common cold. They do against the strains they've been exposed to previously. But there's several hundred strains that cause the common cold. So that's why you never have total resistance to the common cold, because there's just too many viruses. So here's a study in the journal Complementary and Therapeutic Medicine. It's from the Franklin Institute of Wellness, that's down in Franklin, Tennessee. And they're looking at 180 people who had upper respiratory tract infections. And they found that giving them the elderberry really reduced the symptoms, the intensity of the symptoms. You know, like runny nose, sneezing, coughing, sore throat, stuffy nose, etc. So they said these findings present an alternative to regular prescription drugs and over-the-counter drugs that might have side effects for people with viral upper respiratory tract infections. That's pretty cool. You know, if you use the nasal decongestant sprays or pills or liquids, nasal decongestants, they look like speed. They're really only one molecule. Like pseudoephedrine is only one molecule away from amphetamine. And that really could cause severe stimulation. That can cause high blood pressure. It could cause your heart to race or skip beats. It could even trigger a stroke. On the other hand, antihistamines that calm down the symptoms, like diphenhydramine, they can lead to gum disease because they dry your mouth out. They can increase your eye pressure, which could be dangerous. But they also rob you of your memory if you use them too frequently, because they suppress the formation of acetylcholine. So people are looking for some way of helping their symptoms without having to use these drugs. They'd rather not have the side effects. Here's a very interesting study. It's in the journal Nutrients. The journal Nutrients is a very dependable nutrition journal. It's lacking bias. It publishes very on the spot, high quality academic research institutions. They have studies on nutrition. So this is the School of Pharmacy, Griffith University over in Australia, Menzies Health Institute in Australia, the Genomics Research Institute, Institute of Health and Biomedical Innovation in Queensland, Australia. So it's a whole bunch of these high-quality academic research institutions down in Australia working together. And I said, hey, I'm going to paraphrase. Elderberries are used traditionally, and they've been in observational studies and clinically and used in clinical studies, and they help with the common cold and the flu. So this is a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled human clinical trial. That's a gold standard human clinical trial. That's a state-of-the-art human clinical trial. 312 airline passengers, economy class passengers, traveling from Australia to go overseas. Well, you know, everything's overseas from Australia. To see if it has some impact on people catching a cold when they're flying, because it's very common to catch a cold when you're flying, on how long the cold lasts, so that's the duration, how severe are the symptoms, especially the respiratory tract symptoms. And they found that by far, most of the colds occurred in the people on placebo. In other words, having the black elderberries cut the incidence of the common cold in these airline travelers by a third. Now, if they did catch a cold, the people on placebo, their cold lasted for a much longer time. Using the black elderberry cut back on the length of a cold, the duration of a cold, by more than 50%, somewhere in the range of 60%. Plus, the symptoms were much milder. So not only did the black elderberry seem to prevent colds, but if you did get a cold, it was a milder cold, less annoying, less severe, and it lasted for a much shorter time before you regained your wellness. Before we go on, let me just say this about black elderberry. It's something we do use in our products, and our wintertime products, during cough and cold season. And it has GRAS certification from the Food and Drug Administration, from the American FDA. GRAS specifically means generally recognized as safe. But what that actually means is, hey, go ahead and use it. It's not going to hurt you. You might as well try it. Now, studies coming in from all over the world, a lot of them from Israel, by the way, shows that the black elderberry inhibits a whole broad array of flu viruses, type B flu viruses, type A flu viruses, like swine flu viruses, bird flu viruses. I mean, it really seems to be something. And also cold viruses, including cold viruses caused by coronaviruses. So here's a study. It's in the Journal of the International Medical Research. Journal of International Medical Research. It's the Department of Virology, Hebrew University in Jerusalem, Israel. And they're talking about, hey, this elderberry has been used for centuries to help treat the flu, colds, sinusitis. They also found that it has effects against the herpes simplex virus, you know, the herpes that people get on their lips. So it's not just the flu and colds, also herpes viruses. So these are 60 patients that were diagnosed with the flu by their medical doctor between the age of 18 to 54. And they just had the flu for 2 days, and they were randomized into a double-blind placebo-controlled study. And they gave them the elderberry, this time in a syrup, 4 times a day for 5 days, or they gave them a placebo, lacking the elderberry. And they found that the symptoms of the flu stopped 4 days earlier if you took the black elderberry. And they also didn't need cough and cold medication, antihistamines, decongestants. They were fine with just, because not only were they getting over the flu faster, 4 days faster, and this is amazing because they were starting the product within the first 2 days. So they might have already had the symptoms a day or two into starting this product. They got over their flu symptoms very rapidly, and the symptoms were much milder, and they didn't need other medications if they used the black elderberry. So, I mean, a good mix of black elderberry would be with beta-1,3-glucan. They have different ingredients that work differently on a cross-section of viruses. So that's what I normally do during the winter season. I tend to take the black elderberry, and I take the beta-1,3-glucan. They're kind of immune stimulants. Well, the beta-1,3-glucan is an immune stimulant. The black elderberry kind of slows down the viruses. It kind of weakens the viruses. And then I take a third nutrient to give energy to my immune system called nucleotides. Because if somebody sneezes on you with a virus, there's millions of viral particles entering your nose and your mouth. So you have to attack it with millions of immune cells, like neutrophils. And your macrophages have to work really well to gobble up the virus and destroy it. So that means that your immune cells have to rapidly multiply so that there's enough of them to meet the number of viral cells that are happening as the virus multiplies. The nucleotides works by giving the immune system energy, because the immune system needs energy just like you need energy. So it's like a quick tonic for energy for the immune system. So I tell people, if you in the winter, you could take 2 nucleotides every morning, so there's some energy around for your immune system. But if you start to get sick, take 3 nucleotides twice a day with food. As far as the beta-1,3-glucan, if you do like a 300 or 400 milligram capsule of euglin, a type of algae that has the beta-1,3-glucan, that's enough, 1 of those a day, even if you're sick. And then the black elderberry go according to the dosage on the label. In any event, thank you for tuning into this podcast. You can find all of our episodes wherever you listen to your podcasts. Please subscribe, and please leave us a review. You can also listen to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health. And thank you so much for listening to this episode. This is Jerry Hickey signing off.